Maybe we can just start by a quick introduction of what iVentures is, because I don't think everyone here knows that BMW have a corporate venture group.
Okay. Well, it's great to be here. Thanks a lot for the opportunity. It's really appropriate, actually, to be at a British event. Because when I bought my first BMW, I brought it home, and my mom said, "Why'd you buy a British car?" And in the 70s, market research showed that more than half the people thought BMW stood for British Motor Works.
We'll take it.
It took a long time to teach the world that it's German, and of course then we went and bought Rover and Mini and Rolls-Royce, so we're back to being British again. So BMW's venture group is an outgrowth of a new brand that BMW created called the I brand. And the I platform is BMW's effort to sort of really get pushed forward into adopting designed born electric mobility systems. BMW is blessed to have, the premier motorcycle brand and a couple of the premier automotive brands in sort of a whole continuum from the motorcycles to the Minis to BMW, and then we'll sort of talk about Rolls separately. And so the opportunity is to say, gee, we could really think about designing mobility systems that go all the way from electric scooters and electric motorcycles and city mobility systems to Minis that are part of a networked world to gradually having all these things infiltrate the BMW mainstream. And so as BMW has recognized the need to think about the car differently, because of many of the, some of the data that was dropped here today, people today, kids are less likely to have driver's licenses, they drive fewer miles, they're more likely to regard the car as an appliance. The way they buy a car is different. They don't open the hood and look under it. They walk in and say, how does this connect to that? And if it doesn't, they leave. So a lot of things have to be different. And cities, urbanization is on its way. And if BMW does a great job of serving its current clientele, and we can sell a bunch of 7 Series in China, but we're not selling cars to the masses in China. And if China adopts cars the way the West has, it's perpetual gridlock. It just can't happen. The number of cars in Shanghai would just cover the whole landmass of Shanghai. So it can't happen. So we need to rethink what we're going to offer when you roll forward 50 years. BMW is still kind of a family-owned, family-operated company, although it's public. And the Quant family has a long-term vision about how you go do these things. And the I brand is part of that, and within that, the $100 million venture fund is there to help BMW pioneer a lot of these mobility services, networking, connected car, all that kind of stuff.
And if you hadn't seen, there's an Active-E outside as well, and there's a Nissan as well as an Audi. So go have a look, because it's really cool, and we'll come back on the car in a minute. When we were chatting before the interview, one of the things I thought was really interesting was you describing Silicon Valley as the new Detroit. And it'd be really interesting, because we've got Danny from Honda here, we've got Renault here. It'd be really interesting to get your perspective on why the hell has the auto industry got a group of guys from traditional Detroit-based and European companies in Silicon Valley?
It's no offense to my friends at Michigan. I went to the University of Michigan. Michigan helped create Detroit, and Detroit helped create Michigan. But today, a lot of the innovation is central around computers and software and networking and social and community, and that's centric here. But even more, I mean,
so it's not the combustion engine.
Well, I mean, the interesting part is maybe it's reversed. this is where the venture capital is, and the brains flock to the venture capital, or the venture capital flock to the brains. It kind of doesn't matter at this point, but this is the center of advanced combustion technology. Berkeley's probably one of the best in the world at that.
Sven, he's going to have a research.
And advanced valve trains and advanced combustion cycles and, you know, eco-motors and Acadies and a million others. So that's happening here too, and that's going to have a long lifetime. The natural gas stuff is happening here. The clean tech investment's happening here. A lot of battery investment, a lot of battery innovation. Material science is happening here, Stanford in particular. But when we think about the car from the big picture, you know, I've sort of posed this question internally, if Google kind of drives the car with the autonomous car, and Apple or things like Apple run the infotainment, so we're busy in the car, and there's a bunch of tier ones who also all have venture activities here, Siemens, ABB, Bosch, etc. They're sort of making the batteries and the motors for the cars, and there's a bunch of motor startups in the Bay Area. You know, what's a car platform at that point but an integration of a bunch of Valley technologies, including Better Place and Tesla, showing it can all happen. So that's why it's here, because all those technologies are here.
How many people in the audience here realize that there was so much happening in the Valley around automotive? Yeah. About half the people. So it's still a well-kept secret.
There's hundreds and hundreds of startups here that are either specifically about automotive or more generally about the ecosystem of transportation and mobility. I mean, the charging network companies are here, the wheels and the relay rides and all that are here, the Zim rides and the Ubers are here. It's here.
And we're pleased about that. That's a good thing for me, at least. You know, it keeps me in a job. Maybe changing gears, and Sven touched a little bit about his background at BMW in the Valley as well. How long has BMW been in the Valley, and what took BMW originally to the Valley?
Yeah, BMW's was one of the earlier players to have what they call the tech office here in the Valley. And today that's a building literally next to Google in Mountain View with about 30 full-time engineers. Half of them are transplants from Germany, the other half are local, incredibly talented guys. And they're doing advanced development work on their own right and doing sort of the high-level collaboration with the Googles and the Apples and the big players locally. That's sort of an arm of R&D, and that's been here a long time. And Daimler's been here a long time. Honda's been here a long time. Bosch has been here a long time. A lot of these groups are here because the DARPA cars and the smart cars and the autonomous cars and a lot of that stuff at Stanford pulled people in. Toyota's been here a long time. And so a lot of that comes out of the intelligent car, smart road activities. That's the beginnings of it. We created a venture group that has a more global perspective. So we have people in Munich, people in New York, and people out here. And out here we sort of collaborate closely with this tech office.
Yeah, yeah. Now, in your prior life, you were an early investor in Tesla. And it would be really interesting for people, I think, to hear a little bit about that as an investment opportunity, and what was the kind of spark or catalyst for you to invest in that? Because that was, you know, most people in the room, if they thought about investing in a car company, would run as far away as possible. But you kind of were, you know, convinced about something, so it'd be interesting to hear.
Well, I had spent a lot of time working on batteries and energy storage, and I kind of bought their approach to that. In an earlier life, I'd worked with Martin Everhard and liked his energy, and management team for investments makes a lot of sense. And I've been on a board with Elon, who's the craziest guy in a boardroom you've ever seen, but he gets things done. So it was mostly based on people. I will confess that even before I gave them money, I gave them my firstborn. And it's an inside joke. My son's first job out of college was at Tesla, and he rose through the ranks there and had a wonderful run there. And now he's a co-founder of Wheels. So he's got the religion on this mobility stuff, and it gave me an opportunity to sort of go home and talk about this stuff with somebody who really knows it.
So your comment about the people, I mean, that's one of the things that maybe is truly unique about the venture world here, in that ultimately it still comes down to the people. And how does that culturally work in a company? And I worked at Siemens before the bank, which is very analytical, saying we're back in the people. It's like, well, what about the hard science?
It is. I think corporates always struggle with venture, and I've had the sort of luxury to help BMW kind of put this together, and they understand that. I mean, I think all big companies have some kind of intrapreneuring or internal innovation program. And they get that it's about people. They identify, who are our 15 rising stars. We're going to treat them special. We're going to put them through some kind of grooming program. So companies understand that it's about people.
Yeah.
Now, it is hard for them to figure out how to do valuations on a PowerPoint, but it's hard for VCs to do a valuation on PowerPoints. So, I think we've watched. The corporates have become more and more important as
Absolutely.
Venture capital has become kind of more constrained and more difficult in general. So corporates have stepped in to play a very important role, both at early stage high risk stuff and at sort of bridging the proverbial chasm, the gap, and then at later stage providing scale up capital. So I'm actually a big believer that corporates are evolving to play a bigger and bigger role, and the more the corporates kind of have experienced VCs teaching Venture 101 internally, that's good.